the Grappling With podcast. Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management. Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your grappling journey, both on and off the mat, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please seek out personalized care from your own medical provider prior to implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
All right, we're back.
Yes.
Before we get started, I'm calling you on the carpet, my friend.
Okay.
I didn't tell you about this before the podcast, so I wanted to hit you.
What do you got?
Well, since you like throwing in, I know you should be sweating.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it's about the comment you made to me over text. So, you know, you always make fun of Andrew.
I do.
I get it.
We all get it.
But, you know, he put out to some of the upper belts and, you know, like, hey, you know, I need some coverage for classes upcoming.
Yeah.
And I put in my 2 cents and you're like, nope. You're like, no, Chris, we really can't have you doing no gi class because of the sweat problem.
Yes.
Would you like to kind of expound upon that?
Yeah. Your butt sweats profusely. And in no-gi, there's less layers.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had this talk with the community, and you're just not allowed to no-gi.
Okay. I figured I'm going to lean into it. Instead of doing something about it, which I can't. I'm one of those sweaty people. I do think I'm going to start waterboarding people with my sweat.
Good.
Those of you guys don't know what waterboarding is, you're familiar with it, I'm sure.
I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to like eat certain foods that cause more secretion?
Yeah, I'm going to really try to overhydrate and really kind of ramp it up. Then I'll just bring a towel, put it over their face, and then,
We do have a video of you dripping in Gion's face.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend it. I'm guilty as charged, man. Yeah, I'm just going to lean into it.
You're that person on Hoarders that knows they're a hoarder.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hey, I like my stuff.
Exactly. And I figure maybe I can do more. And, Lawrence will back me up on this because he's a other sweaty guy.
That's true. That's true. But he looks like Chris Pratt a little bit at certain angles, so people kind of like...
They let it go. Yeah, they don't want some old, crotchety, real sweaty guy.
Mrs. Doubtfire looking dude. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, I've said my piece. I feel better.
Okay, good.
Okay.
What are you drinking here today?
I have a Zevia. I'm sure, I don't know how healthy it is, but it's not really sugary.
Those are kind of the best carbonated alternatives.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of this stuff, it uses stevia, but I don't think any of this stuff is great for you. But
right.
Tastes good and, whatever.
And there's no dyes in it.
Huh?
No dyes in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, new food coloring.
Nope, it's all clear. And it tastes pretty good. So, yep.
I have a Bang.
Yeah.
Fast, effective relief.
Look at you. Are you trying to push for sponsors today?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it.
That'd be pretty sweet
if they did. I mean, that'd throw me straight into diabetes. But I'd take the bullet.
Nah, man, that won't get you into diabetes.
Yeah, you looked at the back of this.
Yeah, it's not bad
for what it is.
For what it is, yeah,
it's not that bad.
And I actually looked at some of the B vitamins in there. They're actually, like I was telling you guys earlier, some of the higher quality forms of the B vitamins. So, so fairly legit.
Yeah. Stop drinking your full body Rockstar and maybe switch to a Bang.
Look at that. We're not even sponsored. We're rolling.
Look at that.
Yeah, I like it. So we are doing what? We're doing
it's kind of
questions.
A Q&A today. We're going to be all over the board from what I know. I don't know all the questions.
I know none of the questions, which is always fun.
Going in cold.
Yeah.
We're going to have some, I think, strength, recovery, nutrition, jiu-jitsu.
Oh, cool.
We're all over the place.
Something like that.
That's something like that. Olivia's going to kick it off.
All right.
With the first one. How you doing, Liv?
I'm not sure what to ask first.
Just start at the top.
Okay.
And correct their grammar, please. I love it when you do that.
Okay. Well, okay. So I remember this being a topic that you had said you were going to come back to later on.
Which I probably haven't looked into.
No. It's not a bad one. But,
okay.
HIV.
So Bill had brought up the carnivore diet before, and
Yeah.
like, how do you get fiber, or is fiber necessary?
Oh.
So is it necessary?
Okay.
So is fiber necessary in a daily diet? Is
Holy cow.
that what we're asking?
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That was a setup question, because there's going to be 50% of people like, oh, you're full of it. And the other one's like, yeah, man. Or I'll probably piss them both off.
It's good.
That's a good thing.
I think so too. This is my take on this. Okay. We do not have the length of gastrointestinal tract as like a gorilla or a chimpanzee. The longer that colon is, and this, it's made for more of that fermentation of fiber. You typically see, as you go to the herbivore spectrum, if an omnivore, kind of right in the middle, eating, that's what we are as humans, eating meat, we can eat plants, we can eat a lot of different things. As the GI tract lengthens, animals are more able to get more nutrition out of vegetable matter, including fiber especially. They're able to ferment. The gut bacteria are really kind of, with that long, lengthy intestinal tract, able to do that. Humans, it's shorter, okay? It's not as short as an obligate carnivore like a cat, right? Who really don't have much of an ability at all to kind of do that. And I'm not a veterinarian but in general, that's kind of how it goes. With the length of the intestines. Now, is it necessary? It seems to depend on the composition of your gut microbiota. In other words, what those things, what kind you have in there, which can be influenced themselves by diet. Some people do really well with high fiber. Okay, some people, it absolutely destroys them. And I mean gastrointestinally wise,
What's the difference between gut biota, and gut biome?
Okay, great question. The biota is the actual organisms. The biome is actually the collection of genetics. So, for instance, if we took 100 people in a room and we sampled all their genetics, that complete sample would be their collective genome. Okay, there's an individuals there, but and if we sampled all the genes, here are the collection of genes present in that sample group. Same with gut microbiota. The microbiome is what genetics are present through that whole group. So there are, if you say, well, my microbiome is different, that means you have different amounts and different types of species that contribute to different genetics to the pool. So when we call it biome, we're talking about the actual genetics. When we talk about biota, we're talking about the actual organisms themselves. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. It's often used interchangeably, incorrectly, actually.
Okay. So you're saying that some people, fiber can destroy?
I mean, as far as they really have a hard time with high fiber stuff. Now, the medical dogma, and you'll hear this, it's almost what I'm saying is heresy according to medical dogma. Oh, you need to eat more fiber. It's like, well, it depends who you are. It depends on what your microbiome biome and microbiota composition is. How well are you able to ferment that fiber? Because that's what is really important. We give fiber to certain strains of bacteria that actually they use it as fuel, and their byproducts actually, for instance, like butyrate we talked about, is a short chain fatty acid that the microbiota actually produce as like a product of their fermenting fiber, which is really good for our colons. Some people are very, very healthy eating a predominantly plant-based diet. They, for whatever reason, they do really well with it. Others, not so much. And so, because you've seen people, there are whole groups of people like the Maasai who almost subsist on, almost a completely animal-based diet. And there's other groups that subsist on more of a vegetarian diet. So, there's a lot of epigenetics and ancestry that kind of, come up with that. Mm-hmm. If you ask a regular doctor, they'll spit out, they'll parrot the stuff they were taught. Oh, well, you need to add fiber. Maybe. You know, you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. You need to increase fiber. Sometimes that can be the wrong thing to do.
So would you say it's a good idea to have some fiber?
Maybe. I know this is the thing. People want an answer, right? They're like, they want some kind of binary answer. Like, Chris, would you come out and just tell us what to do?
Mm-hmm.
It is so individual. What I always tell people to do is, well, why don't you try something for 3 months? Okay. Why don't you, whatever if you're having some gut problems, especially, start doing an elimination diet, reduce the amount. And by the way, all fiber is not created equal.
Mm-hmm.
Fiber is just a carbohydrate that we can't break down. And sometimes we don't have species in our gut for certain types of fiber to do it efficiently. Some people do, right? And there's an argument on how much that can actually be changed as far as the actual populations. And this is a new area of research is really, really active right now on that. But go ahead.
Well, if I can give a recommendation myself.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes you hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Throw some fiber in there. It's great stuff. I did that once.
Yep.
And I told you about this. Where
is that confetti butt?
Yeah. It was more than that.
Oh.
Where
is this the jicama?
Yeah.
And the avocado?
I was like, where can I get a good source of fiber? And you're like, well, jicama sticks, or like you can buy those at Fred Meyer.
Which is a true statement.
Yeah. And they're pretty tasty, like as in they don't taste bad. They're kind of bland, but they're easy to eat.
Yeah, put a little salt and lime juice on them or whatever. Yeah.
Well, what I did was I was dipping those things like they were party chips in guacamole. And that tasted really good.
Yeah.
Because I was basically eating handfuls of guacamole. And I happened to notice that I felt like I was going to die. The nausea that I got.
Yeah.
And everything that you can imagine and that can go wrong in your gut was happening.
Yeah.
And then you let me know that there's a reason.
Yeah.
And what was that reason?
Well, you probably you hadn't eaten like that before, and then had a big, huge dose of it, basically.
A huge dose. Yeah, I ate a lot.
So you probably remember your microbiome responds to your diet over time too, right? If you eat high sugary diet, I mean, it can overpopulate a certain types of bacteria. Sometimes they can even move up into the small intestine, do all kinds of stuff. So if you were to do that, you probably could have adapted over time and kind of fed a little bit and maybe had some of the populations kind of, because that's what they do. They kind of grow, like one population will grow, and ideally you'd want a good balance between the two, but sometimes they will overpopulate, right? And then if you don't have enough present to kind of take care of that fiber, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So that might have been the problem with that. And that illustrates my point.
Wasn't there also something with the high fibrous food, jicama, and then high fat food?
So yeah. So what you also probably did was inflame the gut a little bit with that huge fiber load, probably. And then also give it a big fat bolus.
Yeah.
Which guacamole is great. Right. And then it probably didn't absorb too well. And,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you used the word bolus because I was literally just thinking of that.
Were you thinking of a bolus?
Yeah, because I don't know why, but I was waiting for it.
Look at the big brain on Brad.
I like that. I kind of like that, that you like the word bolus. Just a big load.
I was going to correct you and say bowl.
Bowl.
You mean bowl of guacamole.
Yes, but it's a
bolus.
It's a medical term, like giving you a big amount at one time. Okay. Yeah. So, right, and so
don't do that. Don't go super hard in the paint.
Yeah. And so, do we need it? Absolutely. Whatever is sustaining our gut microbiome, depending on what you've been eating, there's so many factors in what is actually good, quote unquote, good for you. I would, if you think you need more fiber, and you want to, start trying it, I would just start introducing it slowly, and then again, figure out what types work for you. You know, obviously for you, a large dose of jicama was a little rough.
Yeah.
So
I was eating jicama for at least a couple weeks, but I swear, when I started dipping it in that avocado, and I ate a large amount.
You've never had any sense.
I haven't eaten it since, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you eat the same amount of jicama without the guacamole?
I feel like maybe. I feel like so that specific time that I got destroyed, I was just hanging out. I was like charging the car. So I had like 30 minutes to just sit there and eat jicama sticks dipped in guac. So maybe not in that large a portion in one sitting, but yeah.
Well, and plus that amount of fat in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be able to deal with that and emulsify it and the whole 9 yards. You probably have a little malabsorption going on. Yeah. It's like, have you ever seen someone that gets like, oh, coconut oil is good for you, and they dump a whole bunch in a shake, and then all of a sudden, like, oh no,
I'm dying out of my butt.
Yes. So it's a really good question, and think of it from perspective of what we are as omnivores. We're kind of on the continuum, you know, between a carnivore and an herbivore. And some people, depending on their ancestry and what they did in utero, what their mom did, what kind of, there's so many factors in what their microbiome looks like. And some people do, like I said, really well in high fiber. And some people, like I said, others do great and have no health problems without a whole bunch of fiber. So is it absolutely necessary for that?
Yeah.
Apparently, you know, for some people, not so much.
Okay.
I know it's one of those, again,
non-answer.
It's a great non-answer dodge here, but it's the truth though. But, you know, so if you're ever, I guess, to take home, if you want to change something up, give it a shot, see how you feel, get some blood work done after, you know, let's say 3 to 6 months of some intervention, and see what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay. I think this one is going to be good. Specifically if somebody is eating this before training, and I've seen that happen with Hunter. What does
Shots fired?
Wow.
He told me
in private.
Okay.
Now we're on a podcast.
HIPAA
Like,
law.
hey, hello.
Oh, really, Bill?
Hey.
Okay. What does fried foods do to your body?
Ooh.
And specifically when it comes to training.
It ain't good.
The Rotolos had a story about this.
So, and one of our black belts recently, apparently, excuse me, before it came to class last week, stopped at the bakery.
That all happened.
And had a little performance issue.
Yeah.
I won't name the person with the large head, but you know, we can move on.
Erectile.
No.
Oh.
On the mats.
Oh, on the mats.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, fried food in general. Remember that whole crazy podcast we did on fats?
Yeah.
And we talked about oils and people, what most restaurants or whatever will fry their food in.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to.
I mean, they'll even advertise, like we said this before, canola oil.
Right.
We went to Five Guys and got a couple patties.
Yeah.
And they just have boxes, like they're advertising it.
Oh my gosh.
Peanut oil.
Yeah.
Like
That's my point. So you have all these, you know, with a significant remember, and those of you that don't remember what a polyunsaturated fat is, go back and listen to the fat podcast. It's a fat podcast. But you know, when you heat that stuff to those temperatures, you're oxidizing all those things, making them into free radicals. Plus, most fried food there's flour involved too. That is altered by that high heat. You're basically importing a lot of what we call oxidative stress into the body.
Yeah.
Your body has to deal with that with its own antioxidant systems. Someone, with the example you gave, someone his age, I mean, you're pretty much bulletproof for a little bit.
Right.
Before
20s,
before you know, you're like, yeah, I do it just fine. I'm like, sure you do. Yeah. Over time.
But with that, because one of the Rotolos, he had his first match with Ethan Krellinston, and he gassed, and which is crazy. Like
for him,
Rotolos do not gas, and they're 18 years old. And you can, in the post-match interview, he's talking about how he almost threw up. He was so like, it was crazy. He pointed out when, and in the replay you can see him kind of like throw up,
a little regurgitating a little bit. Yeah.
It was horrible, and which is just super weird because they have maybe.
And was that from the night before too?
Well,
I think it was earlier in the day.
So that stuff creates an inflammatory response in your body. It just does. That inflammation, especially in the gut, and the liver has to process all those, trying to take care of the free radicals too. With we're upregulating all those systems. There's a whole bunch of machinery that has to go into place to do that. That probably could be used elsewhere, as far as performance. Plus, with the gut, when there's inflammation in the gut, even in the stomach, that lower esophageal sphincter, which is basically a valve at the bottom of your esophagus, right where it hits the stomach, it basically keeps stuff from coming from the stomach up, right? And, people, when they get the kind of heartburn, regurgitation stuff, that valve's not working well. And there's many causes for that, but certainly fried food inflammation is one of them. Caffeine's another. Alcohol's another.
Is fried food, from a nutritional standpoint, just some of the lowest hanging fruit of stuff that you could just kick and
totally
immediately have a like maybe who knows, but maybe you're not gonna drop a ton of pounds or anything, but you're gonna actually feel better,
much better, because your systemic inflammation is gonna be lower. And because think about, our body has finite resources, right? And if you're devoting resources to something that you normally, you wouldn't otherwise, if you ate fairly cleanly, wouldn't have to, all the defense mechanisms have to be, we got to mobilize all this. Well, that's going to take away from other things. It just does. That's just we only have a certain amount of resources. So for performance, for sure, and general health, that stuff is horrible for us. Inflammation, not only the sugar and starch from driving things like prediabetes and diabetes, but inflammation really is driving like insulin resistance and all that stuff too. So and if you don't believe it, why don't you cut it out for a couple months, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
So circle back, the good oils, if you're going to cook on your own, because you're not going to have a choice when you go to a restaurant. You're just going to have to assume they're using crap. But avocado oil,
it's not bad. It's more of a monounsaturated. It still has that double bond. But it's better.
Olive oil,
again, another monounsaturated. It's a little better
if you're going to cook at home. And then those are some entry level ones that are pretty easy to find. And then you have
animal fats.
Now those are the best, like beef tallow, stuff like that. And you can actually buy that.
One starts with a G, right?
Oh, Ghee? You're talking about ghee? Ghee's a little different. Ghee is clarified butter. Ghee's a good choice too. Ghee is butter that you've taken all the proteins out of it. So it's basically just fat.
So best is animal tallow.
Ghee is good too.
Ghee, and then you can get into your other.
I honestly, as much as possible, don't cook with. Carrie buys duck fat too. Cooks with that. It's really good. Tastes good too. But I usually use the olive oil and avocado oil as much as possible for like salads, something that I'm not, even that, I'm just a little ultra careful. Again, I'm 52, not 25. So all those little things I'm trying to really kind of hedge my bets with, so I'm not cooking a lot with olive oil and avocado oil.
Right.
Yeah, it's better than soybean oil or the other vegetable oils for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, if you want to have a good training day, or you're going to do a competition, don't eat French fries before.
I
don't know. If you're sandbagging a little bit and you're like, I got this guy.
Well, that's what the Rotolos did. He had a burger and fries, I think, and towards the earlier in the day, and because his competition, his one match was at night, and it just destroyed him.
I was that age once. I would eat an entire pizza.
But it did affect him even at 18. And then they had a rematch, and he kind of blew the doors off.
It affected him at 18 because he's a super high level. And so he knew the difference, at that level, 1% to 2% will make the difference between.
He's pretty in tune with his body too.
That's right. Yeah. But if, someone that's kind of a hobbyist is kind of like, we're not at, is not training at that level, they may not notice as much, but absolutely. If our guy in question here cleaned it up for a couple months, I guarantee you his performance would increase. Yeah. That's an awesome question. Thanks for calling him out too. Cause he always talks a lot of smack.
He does. Both of them.
Yep.
Okay. So this one's actually my question because this is out of left field. I'm just letting you know.
Hit it.
All right. I like it.
So, and it's controversial.
Oh, perfect.
It's probably going to be, okay. Well, I think it's controversial. So it's getting sunnier outside. We're getting closer to summer.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be contradictory points of view on whether or not sunscreen is bad for you.
Oh, here we go.
So I would like to know what your opinion is.
And I'm going to talk about myself in the third person. Do you remember when Chris talked about vitamin D?
Yeah.
And
that whole podcast and sun?
Tank.
Yes.
I do remember that.
Yes. I'm sure you do. Someone have, larger than others.
We came here a little early and you were on the back deck, spread eagle.
In kind of a weird position.
Tanning the old tuckus.
Yeah.
I've heard that some people say that you should tan your genitals.
Okay. I'm not gonna go one way or the other on that. If you do, I'd be careful because they usually don't get a lot of sun exposure. So I'd be really careful starting out on that.
Okay.
But the sunscreen thing. Okay. The dermatologists have gotten everyone scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like 0 sun exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but that's been the thing, right? Your skin cancer. Okay. That's going to bring us back to a concept we talked about during the stress cup lecture about hormesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where a dose of something, and matter of fact, I think I used this exact example where we talk about UV light. Okay. Yes, ultraviolet light can be damaging to the skin and to our DNA. But it's the dose that's important. When we get a good dose, which if you go back to I think you even looked up that thing for us on the vitamin D podcast on, you can plug an app in to say where you live, what latitude, that type of thing, and what time of day, what time of year it is, and how long, what's your skin color, and how long would be a good effective dose for you. Now, if you get a good dose that is not where we're burning the skin, and you've burnt the skin when you come in, you're like, you take a shower that night, you're like, oh gosh, I overdid it. But if you do it to a reasonable amount, depending on, what the intensity of the sun is, you actually get what we call the hormetic effect, where that UV goes in, it upregulates our DNA repair mechanisms, right? So it just like when Paul Saladino talks about the polyphenols and other things in plants that are actually toxins, but they actually upregulate our good systems in our body as a defense. Same thing here. So a good dose of it is essential. Plus you get vitamin D production. You start getting, melanin adapts by getting dark. Your skin gets darker as a protective response. And so the problem with the sunscreen thing is, again, it's about extremes. Those people that are like, well, I'm never going to get out in the sun, and they slather sunscreen all over them. It's a main reason why we have such a vitamin D deficiency. One of the reasons. Now, if we're in the Pacific Northwest and you're like, I'm going to Mexico for a week, you probably should put some sunscreen on.
Similar to the fiber thing.
Exactly. Or, you want to really watch your dose of sun because you'll get really burnt. And that is bad for you. That can lead to damage that your body can't repair adequately, and over time can certainly lead to skin cancer. So I'm not saying that the dermatologists are wrong. I'm just saying that it's gotten way too far on the other end.
There's too much fear of cancer versus
like any amount. It's very much like something else we've been going on for the last 2 years. Like zero risk, right?
Well, and they're not taking into account the benefits of like the vitamin D, just having your circadian rhythm,
the whole
the exposure, just like
and a
so
hormetic and that and a proper dose of UV will actually be protective for future skin cancers, because our DNA repair mechanisms are upregulated to the point where they can take care of any little, I mean, this is not an all or nothing thing. It's just when you overwhelm our mechanisms, and then you have, when you have DNA damage, basically it depends on what genes are damaged, but those can lead to I don't want to go off into the biochemistry of cancer promotion, but they're, one of the things is that damage to certain parts of DNA can then lead to unregulated cell growth. And then that's what cancer is, basically. But again, there's a happy medium here. And it depends on the darkness of your skin. If you're a ginger, you probably need sunscreen in places where darker skinned people don't.
Yeah. You can build up a tolerance too, like do little.
Well, like anything else, right? And that's what allostasis is, right? Stability through change. So you get an environmental input to a certain degree, your body adapts to it over time as a defense mechanism. But so.
But what about the ingredients in sunscreen?
Oh, okay. That's a whole nother thing. It depends on what we're talking about. So there was this thing, I believe it was titanium oxide. I'll have to go look up the nanoparticle stuff.
Yeah.
That is controversial. There's not enough research. There's some evidence to say it's probably not good. But it's really hard to kind of do studies on that right now. If you're using it, it'd be a problem if you use it all the time, like anything else. So if you're constantly slathering sunscreen on just for going outdoors, I would say, why don't you just, wear longer sleeves, or you limit your sun exposure at that point. But, and I'd have to look at the individual ingredients to really look at the toxicological profile, all the recent research on that. It depends. There's certain sunscreens have certain ingredients and
that are more cleaner or safe.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we use as any of the skincare products too.
Have you seen any? I feel like on Twitter, I have seen more and more stuff about seed oils.
Oh, okay. How dare you?
What?
I am sorry.
I was going to ask that question.
And
weren't we just talking about seed oils?
I forgot what I was going to say.
With fried food?
What's up, honey? I love you, boo-boo.
Did you mess up?
I guess. I dropped another Voldemort spoiler, I guess.
Oh, my gosh.
He didn't know. I was waiting for Chris to finish, but... So the question...
Me pontificating about sunscreen?
Let me struck down at the dinner table.
Let me see if this is what Bill was going to say.
Before we do that, does that make sense about sunscreen?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure everyone's like, you didn't give it. Okay.
So I have been hearing that the idea that the consumption of seed oils, is that where you're going with, Bill? Is actually causing people's skin to burn more readily. So if you reduce your consumption of the seed oils, the bad ones, you're less likely to burn. Or that's what's causing people to burn.
Like some people are going really far in claiming that like if you didn't have all these seed oils in you, you like pretty much wouldn't burn.
That doesn't make sense from a physics perspective.
Okay.
In other words, you have burning is damage from UV. UV radiation, right? There's UVA, UVB, UVC, all that stuff, right? So they're trying to say that if you eat a bunch of seed oils, which are a large part omega-6 polyunsaturated fats, which do have all kinds of problems, pro-inflammatory and all that, they're saying that you're going to burn more easy.
Yeah, I think they're saying you're more readily going to get a sunburn versus if you cut those out.
I have not heard that. It doesn't make sense to me. I can look to see if there's any research on that.
It'd be interesting because it's getting a lot of
What does now? There are things that it is true that makes you photosensitive. I mean, I'd have to look see now, like tetracycline antibiotics, doxycycline, tetracycline.
Yeah.
If you're on those, you absolutely it does make you more photosensitive. Okay, where you do have to watch your sun exposure with that. I would to give you a really good answer that's informed. I would have to look in to see if there's any literature on that. Now, what I will say is, if you have a higher inflammatory state, that actually does drive underlying cancers. Okay, so I definitely would buy that. You may have compromised DNA repair mechanisms from the sun exposure, and thus it may or may not. It would make sense if someone says, "Oh, we're linking that to an increased risk of cancer from sun exposure than those that don't eat high amounts of seed oils." But as far as photosensitizing, maybe you could look that. I would have to see something that shows that something in those omega-3 polyunsaturated fats will sensitize someone, and what would be the mechanism of that?
Okay.
Yeah, let's follow up on that one. I'll really try to look into it.
It's getting a lot of
it's
conversation.
Well, what are they? I mean, what are they citing? Are they citing any studies that showing that, or are they just? I mean,
I thought that there's a couple physicians that are or researchers that have said that they can see. I don't know if it's actual studies where they however you'd say that, where
like a randomized controlled trial versus observational.
Yeah.
So this is a problem. If it's a correlative thing, then it's just like all the other correlative.
Right.
You know, that's like, okay.
If I see anything come up, I'll send
it.
Send
it to me, because typically they'll look at these big epidemiological / observational studies that say consumption of seed oils is correlated with increased risk of burning, right? And then I would say, well, a possible reason for that is the opposite of the healthy user effect. It would be the unhealthy user effect, that if you're more prone to eat more of that stuff, you're not typically as health conscious, thus you're probably not paying attention to your sun exposure, etc. Maybe. I don't know. But if it'd be interesting to see if that's actually true, if there's actually a sensitization process that does make you, like, very similar to the tetracycline antibiotics.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Like,
that's really cool, actually. So if you see anything, send it to me, and I'll kind of look at it.
You got another one?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, if you send me something and we figure something, then let's we'll reintroduce it. And it's like, hey, let's follow back up on that question, because that'd be good.
For sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, I've been noticing while she's looking, there's like a kind of a large amount of arguments going on in the fitness world on Twitter.
Yeah.
That along the whole seed oil thing. I mean,
Sure.
seed oils have just blown up. I'm seeing it everywhere now.
Well, they're not good for you,
Right.
period.
But a lot of people have become educated on it, and it seems like and this could just be like anecdotal, where I'm paying attention more, or I myself am educated more on it, where I'm seeing on social media more physicians, MDs, and stuff like that just talking about it and being bold with how garbage that stuff is.
And I think that's great, because all these changes happen from the ground up, from grassroots. So if consumers start demanding things, they'll start providing them, instead of getting away with just filling it with much crap. If that stuff stops selling on the shelves, money talks. They're gonna. So I like to hear that. Yeah, it's great.
The amount of products that have been ruined because they put soybean oil. Or
Oh my
safflower
gosh,
oil. It's just amazing.
I
I'm
saw
like,
someone-
everything else will look great, and you're like, why?
Yeah, and I saw someone just posted recently about they were getting like cough drops or something, like lozenges or something. And they're like, why does a cough drop have soybean oil in it?
I know.
What?
That's my point. They're throwing it, and what's interesting, if you see someone defending it like super, super hard, there's something there.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're trying to push back. Oh, there's no evidence, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, they're just trying not to lose their bottom line because that stuff is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. This is a jiu-jitsu question.
Ooh,
Jiu-Jitsu.
I like it.
If you could give your white belt self some advice at like the beginning of your journey, what would it be? Like you just walked into the gym, so first couple days, what would you
Jeez.
You first.
tell yourself?
Me first.
Yeah. Because I know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you go ahead. Cause
Are you sure?
I kind of want to think about it for a second.
Okay.
I'm going into this cold also. So
Well, the first thing I would do is grab Chris and like, okay, look, you need to relax. You need not to, we all have a certain amount of ego walking into something, especially someone like me when I came in with a history of being an athlete. And, I wanted to excel. Of course, we all do at something. But to my detriment and to many injuries for me, especially, I started when I think I was 44, right? So I wasn't a young guy as a white belt, 44, 45, I can't remember. But that really learning to breathe and not being rigid, and kind of relaxing your body, not only for injury prevention, but management of energy, and just kind of enjoying the process and really. Because, what I thought it was when I was a brand new white belt to what I am now as a brown belt, jiu-jitsu is like a wonderful grind.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
It's great, but it is a grind. It is just time on the mats, picking stuff up, repetition, learning little tweaks here and there. And you can't, me coming in, especially as a physician with a couple, being tested, my whole, that's the whole thing, being able to let some of that go and let things happen, the learning process a little more organically instead of putting a ton of pressure on myself. Oh man, I just learned that arm bar and I still suck at it. Or it's like, dude, yeah, chill out, breathe, and definitely work on mobility more than anything for me anyway. Really start working the injury prevention piece right off the bat, because knowing what the injuries I've had, and a lot of them were probably preventable. Yeah, that'd be the biggest thing for me.
Liv, what about you?
I'm not ready for the question.
Holy cow!
Are you going to answer the question?
I don't. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I think you should.
Okay. Well,
I'll go first.
Okay, you go ahead.
But think of something.
Okay.
I would say just start, because I am one of these people that procrastinated on starting jiu-jitsu. So I was like a 10-year white belt
before you even trained,
basically.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 10 years, actually. It was way more than 10 years, wasn't it? So,
Yeah,
it was. So I've been into jiu-jitsu for a long time.
right?
But I wouldn't go. Like, there was a time where we were just broke. We couldn't afford it. But that was a long time ago. And then there was just, well, I'm going to get in shape first. I'm going to lose a little bit of weight first. I'm going to work out a little bit before I join. Or I started someplace and there was almost like nerves, or like I'd be nervous to go or something like that. And I would find a reason not to, rather than just go, just start.
Right.
Just do it. Because you'll never be in the right shape. You'll never be where you want. It's the same with, like, you can say about like kids or something like that. If you're just waiting to have like a certain amount.
Oh, the best time to have kids. Oh, yeah.
Like
that's a good analogy.
It's a similar kind of deal. So I'd say just start. just start the process of going and set a little bit of a goal, because it's going to be so challenging mentally, most likely. Like some people, it's not going to be. Maybe if you wrestled or something like that. But even for the wrestler, it's going to be challenging because
you're on your back now, and
and you're not starting over completely, but it's something that's so familiar, but you're not having all the success that you would think. Like you're going to be able to beat up a lot of the white belts, but then there's going to be random blue belts that like you can beat, but then some that you can't at all. And then purple belts might feel like, dang, okay. And then brown belts are like maybe they beat the heck out of you. I'm talking about like newer wrestlers, right?
Right.
That it's it can be like defeating a little bit. So you make that goal, and maybe you're not a wrestler, maybe you're just a hobbyist. You're a 40-year-old dude that came in, or a 34-year-old like myself. Make a goal that I'm going to go twice a week. I'm going to go 3 times a week, and I'm going to hold myself to that. And there's going to be the days that you don't want to go in that process, but just go. Even if it's a day, like if it's your day, your Thursday, that's my Thursday that I go, but you're not really feeling it, go. Don't take the day off. Take tomorrow off. Take the next one. And that's kind of like a Jocko thing, but
totally
is I find to stay on the horse, to keep them a positive momentum of training and stuff like that. That helps, because what I found is when I do take that day off, and I'm not saying you got to train super hard on that day, but just go through the motions. If I do take that day off, the negative momentum starts right there. And then I might take the next one off, which is Saturday. Maybe you're a Monday, Thursday, Saturday person. And then I don't go Saturday. Now it's been a week. Maybe I'm debating on Monday. Then you kind of piss off on what you're eating, because you were better about eating, but now you've screwed off on the weekend. Now you're feeling a little lethargic. Negative momentum. So
you're saying consistency for you would have been
just make sure. And that morphed into like how consistent I am now. But and I think that's nothing but positive, is how consistent I've been able to be. But with how much I go, just cut that in half, and you're a normal person, So, but I would say I would look for reasons to not go sometimes before. Maybe sometimes that was just because the warm-ups were hard, and I didn't want to, like, I would be embarrassed because I couldn't finish the warm-ups. Or like,
I got to call you out on that though. How many warm-ups do you really attend anyway? Listen, now I will say lately, it's gotten a lot better.
Thank you.
At brown belt level.
Thank you.
But let's say purple belt, I don't think you ever saw one.
I'm talking. I'm talking more so in the white belt.
I know.
Stage.
I'm messing with you.
Curmudgeon of an old man.
Get off my lawn.
And especially because the gym I started at, and I did 3-4 months at, was like they did a lot of the kind of like fast drilling warm-ups. Armbar, 30 reps each side, and then do like sprawl drills in between, and then sprints, and really get you kind of tired, and then go over technique. And I just couldn't. Like I couldn't do it. Like it was too difficult. So I would get scared, and then like days I wouldn't go. But just go. And then the person that's been debating on going for a long time, just go, just start.
Right.
Long-winded answer. Liv, what do you got?
Okay.
Not a new question. You gotta.
I know. I wrote it down. I had to.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I would tell myself to not be discouraged when I don't feel like I'm progressing, because there's a lot of times where even now, and I'm sure I'll experience it again, but you feel like you're plateauing, or you're not really making an improvement. But a lot of times just having that consistency, at some point, you're going to just start hitting
Yeah.
things that you weren't before,
Just know that plateau is
temporary.
temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be consistent and,
That plateau
you're gonna
stays.
progress.
Or that feeling of being depressed of a plateau can stick around. I know I still do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I think I even outrank you now.
You know, you can piss off. I was wondering when he was going to bring up his stripe. You know what? Look, man. I got to say this. I can't say anything.
Take it down a notch.
Nah, it's well deserved. It really is. I mean, I can't really say anything about it. He feels much better about himself now that it's at my expense that he's superior.
That's just something ugly people say.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so
I like how you slipped it in there. It's
Yeah.
masterful.
So just reassuring yourself that don't get down on yourself.
Don't get down on yourself if you feel like you're not picking up the movements. It feels very not smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep coming.
Yeah.
Keep being consistent. Enjoy the journey. Don't try to hurry up to be a black belt, because I feel like so often it turns into like this. It's a race.
Big time.
It's not a race.
Especially if someone just commented that they got a stripe and I mean, it still happens. Anyway,
Look out.
hey, let me ask you something about this, and I think it's legitimate. You tell me if it's not. Would you? And I hate to be this, but I think there is a difference. What about being a woman as a white belt in jiu-jitsu? Is there something different you would say, or no? You think I'm just like?
I have to think about that for a second.
Is there an intimidation piece to it? Is being, sometimes you're the only female and there's 30 people in class, or.
And I'm bringing that up because it seems to be, I hear that more often than not, is like they're a bit more reticent, or just not, and that's just a general statement. I'm not saying I don't know what your experiences were. Did that even cross your mind
about being a female and
in starting specifically this as a white belt?
Yeah, but I think because I had Bill there as the support, I think if I was a female and I was going in alone, it would be much different.
Okay.
At that point, I would probably give the same advice that Bill said: just go. Probably try to make friends with the other women as quickly as possible.
Well, and in an academy like ours, it's very welcoming. We really watch out for people too, to make sure everyone's safe. But
and probably voice up if you do feel like unsafe.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of where I was getting at. Was there something that was unique that you felt like that other people may not have had to deal with, just because of?
Thankfully, again, because of the fact that I went with Bill, and also because Bill had been coming to jiu-jitsu for probably maybe not quite a year at Cascade.
Yeah.
But he knew that Andrew would watch out for me
Yeah.
when we would line up to do situationals, and he still does.
All the time.
He's never going to put me with someone that he thinks is going to potentially injure me. And so, as a white belt female, I would, especially if I was going in alone, in any gym, you want to make sure you're going into a gym that feels safe, welcoming, that they're looking out for you. They're not going to just throw you to the wolves.
And that's what I was kind of getting at, maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. And I think it's really important because I've still see people, some newer people come in, and it's like, hey, you get a little rough, right? And it's
sure.
like we're still doing it's ADCC trials, and it's like we have a 130-pound female they're going against,
Yeah, Bill actually was asked to give the shoulder of justice to someone recently because of that.
I've
say anything about that.
Well,
I didn't say who.
I've done it.
I just said you
I will
were
tell you
asked
though,
to.
I've done it without being asked sometimes. I've
of
done it a
course.
couple times myself.
Of course.
Not in a mean way, but we need to watch out because we're there
You're
to
just trying to convey this is what you're doing to a small person.
right.
I don't care if male or female. You're doing this to a small person. so this is what it feels like. So don't do it to a small person. So you can feel what, you know.
Yeah, that, and you know, we're there to learn technique, and it's not that you shouldn't. You know, part of it is also learning some, you know, resilience and being uncomfortable being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. However, it's not. We're there to try to learn jujitsu, not to always just at all costs, you know, impose our will on
Yeah.
someone else.
Which, you know what? I do have to say, there are times where I think lower belts, male belts, think that because they see a purple belt on a
I
female
know.
or a brown belt, that they can now go super hard on them. And I'm like, yeah, and you have a weight advantage of how much and strength and all these other
Right.
things.
Well,
It's
part
like,
of
yeah,
it-
I can kind of keep you away and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
try to stifle you, but there's times where like they're so rough and I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's just they're spazzy and they're new, or if there's ego involved and they don't want to be swept by a female. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely the debate, right? It's like, and it's going to be different for different people. Some dudes, they got mama issues. And then there's some dudes that they just don't have the control yet.
yeah.
Right. And sometimes they can conflate a brown belt smaller male with that brown belt small female and think like, well, like let's say if a guy has me by 30 pounds or something like that, he can feel the like I know a lot of the young guys like going after me because they feel like they, not that they can't hurt me, but like they can be rough with me.
Yeah. Well, you're a jerk too.
Yeah.
That's why they
I'm
go
not
after you.
giving them anything.
That's why they go after you.
Yeah. Because I will, yes, go for wrist locks every time. And so, but they might think like, okay, well, I just went with this guy that I outweigh a bit, and he went after me, and I could go after him, and it was all good. Well, instead of looking at all the factors, they just look at the belt, and they think, well, brown belt.
Yeah.
You know, like someone like Sabrina when she was a brown belt, you know, someone come in, like they could try to say, well, she's got super skills, you know, or even now she's a black belt, but and they go after her as hard as they would go after Dan.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Yeah, and I think the question's morphed a little bit into what advice would we give ourselves to like just general like new people, right? Because I definitely for myself, and I think that's just come from a medical background too. Especially if I have someone smaller and lighter, I'm like I may go too far the other end.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Which I would rather go there.
it's a tough balance to
It is.
to age, and that's things that you should be looking at. Belt level, I think is fine. Age, size, gender, like you consider these things when you're going in to roll with someone in the intensity level. But for the people that fall under being a female, a small person, or whatever, all those things, older, like, no, it is kind of difficult to know how hard to roll. Like, how much weight can I put on you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
That's, and if you don't feel like you maybe have that throttle control, like, maybe it's okay to like not roll with one of those people.
It really is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know you don't. The worst thing you can do is get injured, and then you're not training for however long.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you injure someone else.
Or you,
Yeah.
even worse, you
Yeah.
injure someone else.
Unintentionally, but yeah. Or you're a part of someone having like a really bad experience.
Right. And
You beat up a white belt 135 pound female when you're a white belt that's
Well-
170 pounds, but like you're cross facing the crap out of her.
I just know from my personal experience going in as when I was a white belt, you know, I was older, 45, 44, I still forget, 44 or 45. I really appreciated the culture of our academy, that the upper belts were going to give me room to work a bit. They weren't just putting the complete smash on me just because they could,
Yeah.
which they could.
As Andrew said, they try to be right above.
Just
you.
right above you,
Yeah.
right? And that's perfect. And that's why I really, you know, I'm so fortunate to belong to this academy. But you know, we still have people who are coming in that's just like every match has got to be, you know, we're going to start on top. We're not going to work our guard. We're just going to try to smash. And there's time and place for that. But, you know, anyway, we're kind of going round and round on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say about, it's gone.
And that's saying you can't train hard.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I
I hope that doesn't.
No,
come
we're not
across
saying that
way.
at all.
There's certain people to train hard with, and sometimes it takes a little while to identify that, and even ask your upper belts if you're a new person. Like, ask a brown belt, ask a black belt, even a purple belt, and be like, hey, who's cool to like roll hard with? Like, just ask.
And rolling hard is different than rolling uncontrolled.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just
so
sometimes the new person doesn't know the difference.
Exactly.
What are you saying?
So I do agree with Chris on with rolling with females. If you're not sure as a dude how you should go, it would be better to go lighter. And then if she is like, that's not hard enough, you know, like you're going too light, then, you know, and I've told someone like, hey,
you can
go
put it to me a little
more than what you're doing, because, you know, I don't want someone to just be like a rag doll. I want
That's a message for the ladies too. It's like, be like,
yeah, you can tell them,
give feedback.
You don't, you know, you don't have to be like,
because that'll make
yeah.
people so much more comfortable anyway. I'm like, oh, okay, and then they can find that balance, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say that than tell, because your ego gets involved and you're like, well, I'm not going to tell this person to go
Back
softer.
Yeah.
So now I have to just get, you know, my face like smashed and like, you know.
Yeah. What? That's a really good point.
Okay.
Oh, one other thing I was going to say.
Oh, she had another. I like it.
My advice is I would tell myself when I'm at class to drill seriously, because many times as a white belt, I would play around, and Bill knows, and I wouldn't take it very serious what I was doing. And so I think I would definitely tell myself, like, hey, when you're here, like, do the drills and, like, actually try to do them well. Like, don't just, like, goof off, which I kind of did a lot.
Sorry, I burped. It smells.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay. I liked it. So, yeah, and that doesn't mean you can't have fun with drilling,
No.
but it's like, be present.
Yes.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Let's see what the next one.
Which one you got next, then?
Oh, hello.
That's your go-to. That's all you got is LO.
No,
That's all you got. That's what you say every time.
no.
Give me something
You got
else.
a bottle of beer,
He's kind of saying a butthole.
a bottle.
You got a butthole full of beer.
You know, they don't.
Okay.
They don't say THs. They say Fs.
Uh-oh.
What?
Yeah. So if you have a word, give me a word with a TH in it.
Thalamus.
Yeah, it's thalamus. They will use Fs instead of THs. I know what I'm talking
Batch.
about.
Batch?
Yeah.
Batch.
Through.
Yeah, it's
Fru.
fru. They say fru.
Okay.
Yep. Watch them. They do.
Okay.
I'm an expert on linguistics, apparently.
Amiology.
Expert in something.
A bunch of bullshit.
This kind of ties into that. When a new person joins our gym or a gym, should an upper belt first establish their abilities rolling with them? Like if it's a colored belt, another colored belt, before being gentle with them. Does that make sense?
Wait.
So a colored belt is visiting or trying your gym out. Like
blue
let's say.
belt and above.
Okay.
And there's another advanced belt that's going to roll with them. Should that person it's their gym, should they establish like they know what they're doing?
Should they roll hard?
Yes. Sorry. I feel like I'm not.
So the person that is at so let's say that Bill, let's say in his capacity is like teaching a day class. Let's do a scenario.
Okay.
We have a new purple belt from an outside
Mm-hmm.
come in, checking out the gym. So Bill in his capacity as an instructor Or are you talking about just any other?
Just any.
Okay.
So it's a Saturday class, and there's a blue belt visitor.
Mm-hmm. I am generally super wary until proven otherwise, because I just don't know them. It's not personal.
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch, and if I do roll, if it's an unknown, I'll be super defensive
Okay. Yeah.
on myself. As far as what I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna let them take your back.
No, it's not that. I'm going to not put myself in positions where if someone was really spazzy that I could actually get hurt. I'll play a very, very conservative defensive game, kind of feel out how they roll. And then if they're controlled, I don't care if they roll hard, but if they're controlled with their movements, and I'm like, okay, and I get more comfort, then I'm going to open up and start coming out of my more defensive shell. This is just for me. Because, it's fine. But if I actually injured my left shoulder 4 years ago from a purple belt that came in and ripped a Americana on me like it was 80cc. In other words, when I lock up a Americana or Kimura, you get the position and then we'll slowly kind of, right, you'll apply the braking pressure, right? Slowly, because it's dangerous. And then someone to tap, not grip it, boom, and just kind of just crank it like that. And my shoulder's still not the same almost 4 years later. So ever since that, especially, I'm very wary of that. Now, if I'm now that's just as a upper belt that's not in an instructor position. If I'm in the instructor, let's say Andrew's out, or, let's say Bill's in, or I was filling in, then I feel a responsibility to kind of really watch that person, because then I don't want anybody of our members hurt, right? So that's a different thing then, because then that responsibility comes with just myself. Then I start looking at, that's why I asked, who are we talking about here? Then I would probably make sure that I go over and kind of feel them out first, just to make sure, because it'd be horrible if we had like one of our white belts or someone come in, or, one of our regular members, and then someone came in and just, smashed them. Yeah. Without control. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers that. What do you think?
Well, I think more of the question is, are you going to give a hard roll to a visitor, or are you going to kind of be real playful and kind of loosey-goosey? Oh, they passed my guard and now they got my back, and then
I see.
Or are you going to be more stingy with your game plan and your intensity level?
Depends on the person that I can scope. If I feel like that they're kind of a chill person, they're there to train. If I get like aggro vibes at all, I'll take it to them as best I can. Yeah. I really try to respond to the person I'm rolling with. Like if they're, kind of, really technical, but then I'll kind of start playing that with them. Because I also don't want to be a jerk to someone new coming in, because they're just there to train. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, it never feels all that good when you go to a gym and you got like hungry eyes on you, and you can tell.
Never.
That, like,
exactly.
I'm gonna get that guy today. That visitor or something, like, because I drop in a lot, and you can tell when that happens.
Well, for me especially, I don't drop in a lot because a 52-year-old brown belt, they'd be like, "Oh, brown belt, we're gonna." I'm like, "Oh crap,
I'm gonna give that dude arthritis." Yeah. So I would say
that's a good point.
I do similar, where if I see the person rolling in situational or something like that, and I can see, okay, they like to roll hard. Then I'm immediately going into it like knowing that they're probably going to attack like pretty aggressively, which is fine. And I'll be matching that aggressiveness right out the gate with how I establish grips or something like that. If they look like they're kind of like that easygoing roll, that where they have like moments of intensity, but they're not, intense the whole time, then I'll probably do something similar, where I'm more so playing like a looser game. But with all that said, I do not give up position.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, for sure.
now obviously I have a very baity game. So like, it seems like I'm
Me too.
being passed, and then at the last second I like do something.
Yeah.
But with the more intense person, I'll not allow a bait to get maybe quite so deep, because they're going to have that intensity and speed to try to finish a position. In that person, I'll probably, the intense person, I'll probably throw submissions on harder for sure, rather than the person, the other person. I'm gonna most likely try to like just do submissions that are fun.
So you kind of match their role basically, right? As much as
a bit, but being a brown belt, let's say a blue belt comes in, I want to establish that we have good jiu-jitsu at the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're gonna get my back, you're gonna have to earn it.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'm not gonna dilly-dally. If you're gonna pass my guard, I'm probably, like, let's say you had a really good first move and like you did a long step pass and you're like digging in there, I'm probably going to fight for my life to not let you pass.
For sure. No, it's a truthful answer.
Because I also don't, like, as much as I want us to be a safe gym,
yeah,
I also want them to understand there's not a bunch of punk biatches here.
And I don't think anybody that visits a gym would ever get that impression.
I don't know. They roll with you first. They might.
No. You think so?
Bunch of powder puffs, huh? Bunch of geriatric powder puffs.
You remember what happened when we rolled last week?
I do.
Okay.
You're mad that I got another piece of fabric and that I outrank you and that I'm better than you and that I'm just cooler than you and that I have a better head of hair than you.
What?
His is painted. That all of these things came trickling down and you summoned some superpower. You took an extra shot of testosterone and you tried hurting me.
There may have been a glancing blow to the head.
Oh, that's right. You did assault me.
I did.
Wow.
I felt super bad about it too,
that.
actually. Even after the insults, I still felt bad. That's funny.
But yeah, so that's, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, what I will say for everyone, this is a complete joke, but it's
This stuff is kind of taboo to talk about, so, but I don't care. Like,
I think it's funny. I think the lesson we can all learn is if you make fun of Andrew enough on the podcast, you end up getting promoted.
He's begging me to stop. So notice I haven't said anything today.
No, you haven't. It's working
Find
for
my
you.
P's and Q's.
Oh, it's so funny.
But yeah, this stuff is kind of taboo to talk about. But I think if you at least, I don't know, you can kind of take the mystery out of it if you just talk about it. So,
but it's the truth, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want your gym to, have a reputation of like, oh, they're, those brown belts are kind of dog shit, right?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah,
right. You should be, yeah. And there's that fine line. I think I agree with you. I'm not gonna take it easy, but I'm not gonna get super aggro with someone unless I feel it coming from them.
And if you drop in someplace, like, anticipate you're gonna get hard rolls, which is good. And that doesn't mean you have to be the one that like initiates, because maybe you come to a gym that is a little bit more hobbyist oriented and it's not quite in their culture to roll super hard. So you don't want to be that aggro that basically accidentally dojo storms someone.
No.
But know that, okay, wait, your people like to take advantage. And I think this is a good thing. This is why I gym drop, is because you're getting your closest example of a competition as possible. Unfamiliar styles, unfamiliar training partners, variety, and people have the unknown, so the nerves are there a little bit, and you roll hard, and that's great. Just when you gym drop, kind of understand that I don't want to say stigma, but that mentality is there, so you should have it. So you should be ready to roll hard and know that they're going to, but don't be a dick.
Yeah. If I'm visiting, I'm gonna err on the side of etiquette.
Yeah.
and then kind of when I kind of feel the vibe there, then you can kind of adjust, right?
Yeah, I dropped into Seattle Jiu-Jitsu downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Like great dudes down there, and huge class. And I already knew that like they do a lot of sparring rounds, kind of like us. So you kind of, if you do your research, like, okay, they spar a lot. Like Saturdays, 15 rounds, they're doing it.
Oh, nice.
And so you kind of know what you're in for. But it was one of those things where I knew we were getting hard rounds, so I was able to protect myself right away. They can protect themselves; they understand, and it was good. So just being cognizant of this stuff, I think, is a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any question?
Well, actually, I was just gonna. This is just an impromptu, like, probably can use this to kind of close things out. But since we're talking about taboo topics within jiu-jitsu,
here we go.
Oh, do you know
Let's
what I'm
get
gonna
down
No,
to
I
it.
don't know, but I'm anxious.
So I've always been told, well, there's two things. One is there's a big thing about you don't ask how long someone's been training. I felt like I learned that from the beginning. It's like a thing you don't ask that, or people don't like telling you. I think it has something to do with they think that if you know that, then you'll think that you can get there in the same amount of time. I don't know what that is. And the other thing is now I know I said that obviously it's not a race, and it's not a race, but there's still that desire to get that next stripe, that next belt, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels like that's very like, no. Like, don't do that. Like, you shouldn't aspire to improve.
I would say the second one. Let me hit that first,
Okay.
and then see what Bill thinks. I think just trying to just constantly improve yourself is the goal. A professor like Andrew, that's going to be recognized.
Yeah.
So the goal shouldn't be the stripe. Regardless of what Bill just said earlier and made fun of me, and just, really kind of brought himself up at my expense. Yeah. But no, it shouldn't. No. And to use him as an example, that is an example of self-improvement, just showing what comes with it. The stripe comes with all the work he's put in. And that also goes to your first part of the question. Asking Bill how long he's been training gives you doesn't give you a good sense of the time he spent training.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So if we're talking about, I've been training this many years, I mean, are we talking about the blue belt that comes like a couple weeks every 6 months?
Yeah.
Right? Or are you talking about a guy that trains and teaches 5-6 days a week?
Yeah.
So that chronology of years to me doesn't make a difference to me. And I don't think it should be a taboo thing, but just to understand it's time on the mat and time spent off the mat too, studying. So I mean that shows, I mean, both those questions kind of come in together. When you have someone doing that, the promotions are going to happen just because of that. And everyone has different amount of time they can devote to training.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. We're all on our own journeys there. And sometimes, in watching someone else get promoted, instead of being like envious, you should be like, wow, that is really deserved. And I'm super happy for that person. Cause I think one of my favorite things on promotion day is not for me. It's watching all my training partners get promoted. I think that is just it's wonderful. My favorite time of year.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, because there's some people that you become close to, then like how,
well,
not necessarily important, but how happy a goal in life was reached or something like that.
Perfect. Just real. I'm not going to go off too long, but our buddy Jonathan, who I work with professionally, I got him into jiu-jitsu last June. He's about 10 months in now. He got a second stripe. Man, I am so proud of that guy. I mean, it's just almost like it's like an emotional thing because I've seen where he was. I can just see the change has been just phenomenal. And just someone that's really gotten into something. And that just makes me happy. So.
Yeah, I told him the other day, I was, man, it's night and day. It's like a different person.
And he's the type of guy that just like, no. He's so humble
He was
about
almost
it.
baffled.
I know.
Yeah, I thought he was baffled while I was talking to him, but it was
No.
because I was complimenting him on that.
Well, you just don't compliment often. You're
Yeah,
usually
right,
tearing
that's true.
into someone.
Ripping.
No, I'm joking. You're really good.
You know, I think with the promotion thing
Mm-hmm.
is definitely, it's easy to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have the goals. Like, okay, I want to, like, I think it can be a benefit to say, okay, I want to get my next stripe, or I want to have 2 stripes in this amount of time. Having those little micro goals, I think, are great. But you do have to understand that everyone is on their own specific journey, which is so overused.
Well, it's very subjective.
Because it's a person that has their own criteria, that they're like Apple, where they don't tell you what that criteria is, right? Or Facebook or something. They don't tell you what the algorithm is. So you know, in one person being a blue belt and then progressing to that blue belt 1 stripe is going to be different from that guy or that girl that has a blue belt. And what do they need to do to get that next stripe, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because maybe this blue belt has sick triangles and arm bars already, but they can't pass worth a damn.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposites for this person, so
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. But I think having those goals is okay, but waiting, just like,
Becoming obsessed.
yeah, and having, just like in any sport, if your goal is to win a tournament or a championship or something like that, yes, it's good to have the goal of that, but making it so that's what's so valuable that if you don't achieve that it now turns into a negative where you're either bitter because a training partner did, or you're going to quit because you didn't reach that goal in time.
Right.
Like if Michael Jordan like quit because he didn't win his first championship,
Yeah.
look what you miss out on. You know, I think he got cut from like his high school basketball
That's
team or
right.
something. So it's like,
Yeah.
you don't hold that up there as the grand goal, whether it's a stripe or a belt, especially when none of that crap matters until you're a black belt anyways. And that's, even then you're not even a complete person at that point.
Unless you get promoted over your training partner and make fun of him on a podcast, then it's okay.
Yeah, then it's okay.
And just rub it.
Yes. I've only done it twice
It's
in a
fun.
week.
It's great.
So, what was the first question that you had?
It was about asking how many years someone's been training.
So
People
I
very
think it is
secretive.
taboo.
Well, especially if
Or
a white
looked-
belt's asking.
It's looked at as taboo.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's less taboo if you ask before you roll. If you get the question after,
Oh,
I think that is a little bit more, can have different meanings than before.
I completely agree. Or just in casual conversation, like when you're first
Exactly.
meeting someone. Yeah.
Exactly. And with a white belt, if they ask me how long, because I don't actually with anybody,
You
I
preface
say,
everything.
yeah, I just say a few years. Like that could be, who knows what that means, right? Because I don't feel like getting into the whole, like, you know, if I say 4 years, let's say, they're like, holy shit. But I train a lot and then I watch a lot of stuff then I've been a fan of Jiu-Jitsu since I was a 10-year-old, you know, whatever.
Is that how you talk normally?
Yes.
Yes. When I'm not caffeinated. So, and that's even if it's not a white belt, right? Then
Yeah.
I really feel like I have to, because I don't want to say like, oh, this guy thinks he's the hot shit because he,
Right.
whatever. So, I think if it's a question before a roll, then it's just kind of like then it is just conversational. Like, oh, cool. How long you been going? Yeah, a few years. Yeah, sweet. Okay. And then, but if it's after a roll, it feels a little different. Where like maybe if you were kind of like, you know, you weren't putting it to them, you were kind of just working on something specific, and then they're like, oh, so how long you been training? And maybe you're an upper belt and they're not, and it's like, well, I don't know if you quite deserve that belt.
All right,
I don't even know if people think that very often.
I don't know, but I can see where someone might take something the wrong way,
For
perhaps.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
sensitive as a little pony. I'll take that. Real sassy.
You are sensitive. I've had people ask me, but I just tell them and I don't care either way. I'm like, whatever.
I mean, that's the best mentality.
but that's
to
just
have.
because I know that what my time frame isn't going to be their time frame, and whether or not they think that that's attainable,
None of that
it has
crap
no effect
matters.
on me. So
And like Chris said, it's a mat time hours thing anyways. Like the whole how long is so like there's a guy that just started in the midday. He came back. He trained somewhere else, but he's just getting back into jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
He's been training since the same time as Andrew.
Right.
Like he's been training for a little bit less, but like 16 years.
Mhm.
He's a blue belt.
Right.
Well, obviously he had a break in there.
Well, for sure.
But like, yes, that guy at face value, it just doesn't,
That's
doesn't
why
mean anything.
I don't like that whole year thing. It's just like, frequency of training, and if we had a clock and could accumulate time spent off and on the mats
Yeah,
studying jiu-jitsu, right?
yeah. And, but I think sometimes we take the question a little more. We take it differently than it
Mhm.
should be
it
taken.
get a little offensive.
Yeah.
Mm.
Where maybe is someone trying to say like I suck? Is that why he's asking? Or the opposite?
But a
Just
white
know
belt's
that I think you
literally-
suck when I ask you that. Just so
I
you know.
think white belts literally are just trying to, if it's coming from a white belt, I always am thinking they're just trying to kind of get an idea of how long it may take to get X amount, like to X belt.
Okay.
I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt and
Mhm.
think, because I know when I was a white belt, if I asked someone, it was literally pure curiosity. It wasn't like, I'm going to be, this belt by this time if I, because I had no
I think
idea.
9 out of 10 times that's probably what it is. But
It's
as
innocent.
jiu-jitsu people, like once you're a colored belt of some sort, you might get a little self-conscious to be like, why is this white belt asking me? Is it because they think I suck?
Yeah.
Like we're projecting that when
Mhm.
9 times out of 10 it is just someone being like, so how long does I read on the internet it takes 10 years to get your black belt. Is that like how long have you been training?
Yeah.
So because they don't even know like the belt hierarchy.
They literally have no idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
But we get all sassy in our head and defensive. And then if someone's vague about, or like, if you become vague about it, like, oh, I've been training, and you start giving a bunch of like odd reasons why you've been training for 7 years, but you're a blue belt or something like that. And it's like you're getting in your own head.
That is a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Just take it while it's there.
Say
'cause-
eloquent. It was very eloquent.
No, I'm not going to tell a lie.
All right.
It was muddled and incoherent.
Muddled.
Is there any other taboo jiu-jitsu
Taboo
topics?
subject?
Yeah, I'm
We'll
kind of
think-
curious.
We'll have a taboo episode where we talk
Ooh.
about all the BS.
I think that would be good, just because no one wants to talk about it. So
That's
it's a
true.
secret.
That's true. We'll piss
Private
Andrew
comment.
off. He'll be like, why are you guys talking about that crap?
I don't know how you could piss him off any further.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
you seem to like, poking the bear.
I do.
Um,
I did not poke the bear today.
Not today. You didn't. I'm
Thank
proud of you.
Turn a new leaf.
Yeah. I do want to, those of you out there that are listening and have questions, please submit them. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
because you may think it's a dumb question, but I guarantee you 100 other people have it.
Mm.
Oh, for sure.
And you can find it if you are members of our academy. Obviously, you can find us in class. But if you're not, please send to
Either Instagram or Facebook, or if you just want to email them, grapplingwithpodcast@gmail.com.
right,
That's the easy way to.
because I'd like to do. I think these are valuable,
Mhm.
and so I'd like to do more. Otherwise, you get to listen to me pontificate about
Yeah.
some kind of thing and have Bill make fun of me, and then it just never works out well.
Yeah.
We are a couple things I'm thinking about, just to give you guys a little teaser. Carrie and I are putting together a pretty good comprehensive series on gut health and how it affects your performance. It's pretty crazy from all the new stuff that is out there in the scientific world on that. And I'm also toying around doing kind of an injury management thing,
Oh, okay.
which I think would be kind of just some general principles I think would be pretty
sure.
helpful for people. Do you have anything that's hot on your mind that you want to?
No. Thought about taking my shirt off, but I'm not going to do it.
Really, Bill?
I'm just saying it's a little warm.
What room are you in?
Well, all right. No, I got nothing.
Okay.
That's it.
Well,
Blow
on
us
that.
up. Yeah.